Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto Anime review. This one's going to be for episode 147, which is called The Fateful Moonlit Battle. So this is the episode that sort of brings the prison section of this arc to an end, and next week we're finally going to get into the manga content. So overall, I'd say these prison episodes did a pretty good job at setting up some stuff, in that especially towards the end with the sort of big twist, how they did the kind of reveal going into the manga content was super surprising and actually I think well done, as well as being very sort of tragic and kind of brutal, which we haven't seen that much of in Boruto. So it definitely did some big stuff there. Was it worth like 7 episodes of setup? Probably not, because you could see by the way they kind of wrapped up the prison stuff of like cutting back to Kendama, and the only resolution with him is just that he has flowers. That without Benga he can sort of be more okay in the prison, he has his flowers, and then the other guy is getting his letters again. And like that's it. Like it was really one of those proofs where like, okay, they really did only have like 1 or 2 things they wanted to accomplish across these 7 episodes. But it was at least interesting. It was on topic the entire time, even if it was a little excessive and it was maybe a small amount of sort of important content spread out across 7 episodes. As for this one, like it being our sort of resolution type episode for this section of the arc, we did get our big sort of fight here. We got Tsukiyo versus, of course, Team 7 and Kokiri. Now, they reveal that his jutsu, Tsukiyo's jutsu, is kind of a moon shadow jutsu, basically. So I like the comparison there of them noting that it's like similar to the Nara clan jutsu, the shadow possession and stuff like that. But then the twist of it being based on the shadows made by moonlight. And so it's more powerful based on how full the moon is, and in general it is sort of a more powerful ability. I thought it was a unique ability in the sense of like he can, yes, do the standard Nara thing of like projecting his own shadow, but then he could also just do a shadow that he sees from someone else and basically turn their shadow into a like shadow clone, like an not in the sort of way that we typically know it, but like a literal clone that is a shadow of that person. And I thought there were some nice sort of technical details with regards to like, oh, that clone runs off the actual person's chakra, but they sort of have unlimited stamina in a way. So it was this kind of real challenge of how do you actually counter that. And then we had Kokiri figuring it out with the like spotlights, and when you actually shine normal light on the moonlight kind of shadows, it obviously puts them away. So it's this very powerful ability in certain situations, but then has a very clear-cut weakness. I wish they had explained Tsukiyo's other abilities a little bit more, of like what was the sort of, you know, pink purple lightning that he had like around his shadows at certain times when he was attacking people. Was it just like lightning style linked into shadows or what? And then the sword thing that he did, like was that just an extension of his moon shadow jutsu that like he could you know, basically make stuff out of his own moon shadow or what? But then it wasn't moon shadow because it didn't go away when the spotlight was shone on him. So, you know, there were some things where I was just kind of like, okay, you need to have him fight outside of just this, you know, cloning other people. It felt like they didn't have really an explanation for it there. So, you know, I wish that was explained a little bit more. The fight itself, like, it was all right. It was still one of those typical things of like, our characters aren't really going all out. They're just using some basic jutsu. They seem very ineffective until right at the end when there is actually a fairly clever move of like, oh cool, it's the Team 7 Boruto stream where Mitsuki uses wind style, and then Sarada uses her Sharingan to copy Mitsuki's wind style, and they project Boruto, so no need for clones, and he sort of sends Tsukiyo flying into the ocean. So this sets up our sort of seemingly like big moment at the end where like, oh, they win. Like, Tsukio kind of comes back and drags Kokiri into the water, and it seems like they're both gone, but then they reveal, of course, oh, Kokiri was a really good swimmer, so he gets back to shore, and they reveal that Tsukio just died. Okay, that's fine, and it seems like all is well. And then the twist at the end, of course, in the aftermath of all of this, is that yes, the information about who the leader of the Mujina gang is comes out, and so on. It's Shojoji, and he has this corpse clone jutsu. Then they do the twist that as Kokiri is released, they reveal that Kokiri is like a corpse clone, that it is Shojoji, revealing to us that from the very start of this arc, Tsukio was Shojoji under a corpse clone, so using a corpse clone. So that's pretty crazy. They haven't revealed yet, of course, the full extent of the jutsu and stuff like that, just that like, oh, he can basically turn into the bodies of people that he's killed, and that's really about it. So that was a kind of big reveal of like, okay, he killed the second in command of the Mujina gang, and he also killed Kokiri, which is the big sort of tragic twist in the end, that while they were in the water, he got the advantage over Kokiri and, you know, cloned into him. Now, it's going to be a big moment when they reveal how he like uses this ability. That will add so much more sort of context and like tragedy in a way to what's happened here. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who has not already read the manga, but it's pretty brutal when you get that reveal of how he goes about using that corpse clone technique, and it just makes things so much worse than what they are. But it was clever. It was a big cliffhanger reveal to, in my mind, like kind of perfectly at the end of this section of the arc, set up the manga content arc of like, okay, we know who we have to deal with. The leader of the Mujina gang. We now have all the information. Kokiri's death is tragic, but the information that he presented to the Leaf Village is going to be important going forward. And this is the big setup for, you know, getting into much more manga content going forward. And that the arcs pretty much at this point in the manga do all sort of, you know, flow into each other. So we're sort of past, I think, that need for 100 like episodes of just episodes that don't really relate to anything, and we can get into more regular manga content. So yeah, the preview gets across the idea that this is going to be a pretty accurate adaptation of the manga. We'll see if they do any sort of extension on the manga and add more in that's already in there, or if they just do a direct, you know, translation. That will be interesting, but it looks like it's a lot of the same points of like the daimyo of the Fire Nation and his son, and, you know, the continued research and like investigation into the Mujina gang. So that's going to be pretty big. Land of Fire, sorry, not Fire Nation. That's my avatar. Stuff coming into it again, but yeah, that's all good. Like, again, this arc starts off a little slow. Even in the manga, it's a bit slow at the very start, but it does get going, and it builds to a pretty nice point. I would say, like, even in the manga, I don't think it's the best arc, but it is going to be a good arc in the anime. That's the thing to say. Like, this is going to be better than a lot of what we've had recently, so that's something to at least look forward to. But yeah, I think that's most of what I wanted to say here. Like, yeah, the end of the prison arc, it didn't need to be 7 episodes, is probably the main thing to say. Like, I get they were trying to do like a bigger, more thought out arc, and it was cool getting to see Hozuki Castle, linking it into some of the appearances of that before. They did some nice emotional stuff with the introduction and how they characterized some of the other prisoners, and they had some decent moments along the way. But I think some of the vagueness around how they just so quickly wrapped it up, I'm not the biggest fan of, and that, like, Lord Mujo still apparently has a heart problem. Like, are they really just going to be okay with this? They're just going to leave him in charge even though he has this medical condition? How does this relate into the light novel that it seems like they blatantly just ignored for this, where we had the previous warden of the prison and stuff like that? It's those details at the end, and the fact that, like, oh, we did get nice moments with characters like Kendama and the sort of Mohawk guy, but then you wrap it up like in like 2 seconds for each of those characters. There's no sense of like, oh, we're actually doing something with them. They're definitely the critiques I'd have, but it came on strong at the very end. Like, super cool twist to add context to what's going on here, and I suppose the one thing they're going to add in here is, I suppose, probably when we get to it coming out to Boruto and so on, that Shojoji killed Kokiri, and that's going to be an even bigger thing to add to, like, why you should hate this villain because he ruined this really nice happy ending. And that's going to be cool that they have that to sort of add in now. But yeah, that has been the review for this episode. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are. How excited are you for finally getting back into manga content starting next week? But yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.